Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deeply mystical and really thought-provoking turn as we explore a fascinating framework laid out by J. Steve Bruner. It's a total deep dive into what he calls the human journey. But instead of mapping this out through a bunch of rigid rules, he looks at it through seasons of the soul. We're going to be unpacking his work on the hidden scripture and this unique spiritual fingerprint that every single one of us carries. It's honestly just a beautifully structured way to look at how we grow, how we struggle, and how we ultimately find our place in the world. Okay, let's dive into this, starting with a seriously powerful hook from the author. There are books we read, and there are books that read us. Right out of the gate, Bruner is telling us that this isn't just some passive information for us to casually consume. It's a highly active, reflective experience. He's bringing us into this profound idea that the deepest wisdom out there isn't actually something you just sit and analyze. It's something that analyzes you. It reveals the hidden contours of your very own life. To arrive at this massive realization, Bruner spent years looking outward. He searched for wisdom in literally all the traditional places you'd naturally expect. He pored over scripture and theology. He dug deep into philosophy, history, and psychology. He even spent time absorbing the writings of saints, mystics, and poets, going as far as searching through remote mountain libraries for ancient voices. And you know what? While he absolutely found incredible treasures in those places, he realized something totally unexpected. Every single one of these great external sources seemed to be pointing away from themselves. They were all actually pointing towards something else entirely. And this brilliantly illustrates what he found, a book beneath the books. We're all super familiar with traditional books, right? The ones written with ink, bound in leather, safely stored away on shelves. But Bruner argues there is a hidden scripture. This one is written right into the very architecture of existence itself. It's written into the rivers and the stars. It's written into human suffering and human joy, into the rise and fall of civilizations, and most importantly, into the longings of the human heart. It is a book written directly into you. Now, what's super fascinating is that Bruner makes it clear he isn't the first person to notice this. Throughout history, so many different traditions have been searching for this exact same hidden scripture. The Hebrews spoke of it as wisdom hidden since the foundation of the world. The Desert Fathers went out and sought it in absolute silence. The Celtic saints looked for it in what they called thin places, those rare, magical spots where the veil between the physical and the spiritual feels paper thin. Mystics caught glimpses of it in deep contemplation, poets heard it in sheer beauty, and the prophets heard it roaring in the voice beneath the storm. So across centuries and wildly different cultures, they were all searching for a scripture written within humanity itself. And that brings us to the foundational concept for our whole journey today, the soulprint. Bruner defines the soul as your life consisting of your body, mind, and spirit. And just like a physical fingerprint, your soulprint is completely 100% unique to you. It's the core design hidden beneath your personality, beneath your wounds, and beneath your fears. The entire premise here is that each person is beautifully unique, created in the image of God, and carrying a very specific divine destiny. Which naturally leads us into our next section, a sacred cartography of becoming. So instead of throwing dry doctrine at us, Bruner maps this journey out as a sequence of inner sunrises, or dawns. Let's move to and see how this builds through the first 4 dawns, which represent our outward struggle. It all begins with the first dawn, which is wonder. This is our soul's very first response to reality. It's that sheer awe at existence itself, realizing life is a literal miracle before it is ever an explanation. But then comes the second dawn, separation. This is that painful loss of innocence. It's the birth of fear and the emergence of the false self, where we start mistaking mere survival for our actual identity. And that propels us right into the third dawn, seeking. The great pilgrimage kicks off here. We search endlessly through religion, philosophy, art, achievement, even love, just trying to find that thing we can't quite name. Until finally we hit the fourth dawn, which is surrender. This is where the seeker reaches the absolute limits of their own striving. It's that powerful, crushing realization that grace simply cannot be earned by our own efforts. After that surrender, the journey takes a huge turn profoundly inward. The fifth dawn is silence. This is where the soul discovers that sacred territory way beyond all the noise. It's the hidden chamber beneath our constant thoughts and performances. That quiet then leads us to the sixth dawn, seeing. Here, the masks are finally pulled off. The false self is totally exposed, and the hidden architecture of your true soul really starts to emerge, which allows for the seventh dawn, becoming. The fragmented self begins to heal. You learn the slow, patient rhythm of becoming who you were actually created to be in the first place. And finally, we arrive at the eighth dawn, belonging. This is the dawn without evening. It's entirely beyond striving and separation. It's where you realize the journey was never about escaping your humanity, but truly, fully fulfilling it. Bruner makes a major point to show that this sequence, this sacred cartography of creation, exile, pilgrimage, redemption, and union, isn't just some isolated theory. It literally appears everywhere. You can see this exact pattern in scripture and in nature. You see it in the broad strokes of history and the intimate, tiny details of psychology. It's in the lives of saints and it's in the lives of sinners. He notes it is the story of Israel, the story of the church, and ultimately it's the story of every single human soul. So the implication here is massive. We aren't just looking at historical examples, we are looking straight into a mirror. Because this pattern, it might just be your story too. But right here, we actually need to hit the brakes for a very clear warning from the author. There are no formulas here. Zero. There are no neat and tidy 7-step systems that promise you some perfect, optimized outcome. And there are no guarantees. The soul just does not unfold according to a rigid corporate formula. It unfolds according to mystery. Think of Bruner's work as a lantern. Its purpose isn't to give you an instruction manual telling you exactly where to walk. Its purpose is something to illuminate the path that is already right there beneath your feet. And that's entirely because of how transformation actually works. We so often want transformation to be linear, like a straight line Amazon Prime next-day delivery for enlightenment, filled with conquering, force, and absolute certainty. But Bruner argues that spiritual transformation is rhythmic. The soul rarely moves in straight lines. We advance by participating, by alignment, and by trust. We might easily find ourselves revisiting that dawn of wonder, or maybe slipping back into seeking or surrender. It's incredibly cyclical, much like the changing seasons or the rolling tides of the ocean. So, the crucial point is this, and it's perhaps the most vital thesis of Bruner's entire framework. Despite what certain religious traditions might sometimes suggest, the goal of this spiritual life is absolutely not to become less human. It is not about escaping our bodies or trying to transcend our reality. The ultimate goal of this inner restoration is to actually become more human. And what exactly does it mean to become more human? Well, it means stepping fully into the weight of your own soulprint. It means becoming way more compassionate with yourself and with the people around you. It means being intensely present in your everyday, normal life. It means being more truthful, finally shedding that false self we talked about earlier. It means being way more courageous in the face of fear, deeply loving, and ultimately just far more alive than you ever were before. Because this is exactly what it looks like when humanity is fully awakened. To anchor these concepts, Bruner does use a specific theological framework. In his view, the life of Jesus reveals what humanity looks like when it is fully awakened to that divine image. The Beatitudes, which are those classic teachings on blessing, reveal the actual rhythm of this transformation. Deep contemplation is the tool that reveals the necessary silence of the soul, and ultimately love is what reveals the final destination. According to Bruner's framework, pretty much everything else is just commentary. Which brings us right back to the present moment. Think about right now, just outside your window. The mountains still stand, the rivers still sing, the stars continue their ancient, quiet conversation right above us. Beneath all the frantic noise, the endless scrolling, and the million distractions of our modern world, that hidden scripture we started our journey with, it is still out there, quietly writing itself upon every single human heart. The dawns we've explored today are already rising inside of you. In fact, they literally always have been. The sacred cartography is already there. So the only question left to ask is, will we notice? Are you going to take the time to read the book that is currently reading you? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you'll take a moment today to just embrace the silence and see what dawn might be rising for you.